Hey, party people. It's New Year's. Happy New Year's. Those of you who follow me know I love New Year's. This is my favorite holiday of the year. And this, being New Year, is a great time to do a then and now video. I often say that instead of comparing yourself to other people, you should be comparing yourself to your younger self, your before practice self. Like, see how much you've grown as an artist, designer, maker, whatever it is that you do, because it's more important for you to improve your own skills than pay too much attention to what other people are doing. Okay. So here's an old sketch of mine. It's from college. Okay. Listen, I have a lot of work. Okay. I have like a trunk full of I have 2 trunkfuls of old work. But this is fun to look at super old sketches that I've done and laugh a little at. Okay, listen. And you should do the same with your own work. Like, not everything about this is bad. Okay, I actually really like how I laid down the gouache so evenly and so smoothly. Like the flat striping thing, without shadows, but really like just following the vertical. That was a look that I was testing out. Okay, so the fact that it looks so flat is on purpose, and I think I did a really good job of the gouache application. But the figures, it's really that's the problem I have with this, is the figures are not great. The poses are stiff and the vertical proportions are, we all know that most fashion illustration, the figures are elongated, but just because they're elongated doesn't mean that they can be elongated any which way, The proportions are off, and I don't like how, I don't know, they're stiff. The proportions are long, okay? I could nitpick this all day, but I won't, because I tell you not to nitpick all day, so I'm gonna take my own advice. Let's fix these figures, okay? First of all, let's do this one. I do have this slanted 1/4 head where you just see her cheekbone and her lashes and her ears in here. And then you see the back of her neck. And then it becomes a side view, right? So there's the back of her head, and then there's the center back of her neck, and then it kind of turns to side. And then we have our rib cage in here. And because of how flat I painted, I can't really tell where her armhole is. But if I want her arm to go out that much, okay, there's her sterno, and there's her clavicle. Let's move her arm back. Of course, give her some breast, and of course it's gonna look narrower. Side view of breasts often look narrower than a full view, a frontal view of the same breast. And then she's arcing her back. Her butt is sticking out. And then there's her elbow. And yeah, I just don't want it to stick out too much because it just looks painful after a while. Now, this looks like the leg closest to us. And then this one is the back leg. So we're doing this. So something more like that. Let's check the proportions. That's one head, 2, 3. You know, if you're new to figuring out vertical proportions, you know, I have a 10 head system. I do have a 10 head video for you to follow. 1, 2 should be right at the top of your breasts, like at the apex or above that. 3 is right around where your waist should be, where your elbows should be. You know, kind of depends on how far out the arm is swinging. You know, crotch is at 4, 4 1/4, 4 1/2. 5, 6, 6 are the knees. 7, 8, 9 are the ankles. And then 10 kind of depends on how much foot is showing. You know, angle, watch those angles. Wrists are right around crotch level. So here's her hand like that. Do, do, do. Okay, we'll see a little bit of her, because she is twisting so that her foot is frontal to us. Do you see how the pose is the same, but it's just more natural, softer? It doesn't look like she's like really reaching the far reaches of how far her joints can move, but it's in essence the same pose. Now let's do this back pose, and all right. So we have, I'm going to keep the 3 figures the same size just for. So we're here, and she is also 1/4, but going the other way. I can't even use context clues on the clothes like I can with photographs of people because of the way I did this illustration. But it's like a very slight, and the hip pops. So very slight, and the hip pops. All right. Here, there's the shoulders there. You know, her shoulder blades would be about there. And then her hip, I'm gonna drop the hip a little bit. And then the back leg is this. And this is the leg with the most weight on it. This one is just a balancing weight. So I do want this foot to be kind of under the base of the neck so that it's carrying all that weight. Like try standing up so your weight is planted on both feet. And then lift one foot, and you will see that your body shifts over to the foot that's still on the ground to balance it. Because otherwise, if you pick your foot up and you don't move the rest of your body for balance, you'll fall over. Okay? The bulk of the weight has to be over the foot that is planted firmly on the ground in order for it to stay upright. So this one is just like on the floor for balance, but most of the weight is on this foot. And so this ankle needs to be here, somewhere around here. And so we're swinging, like give it that like sinuous look, right? And then this one, you know, angle of the hips, angle of the knees. And I've decided, I guess, that her arms are going to be pulled forward. So that's the thing. And then her hips. The widest part of your hips should be around crotch level. Like right here, a little bit above, a little bit below, somewhere around there, okay? Not up here, mid butt, okay? But closer to crotch level. I mean, I still feel like she could come this way some more. And this is definitely a technique I use a lot, where I draw with one color, like a medium tone color, and then I go in with corrections with a darker color. This is how I do most of my figure drawing tutorials. If you like the way I draw figures, you should join my figure drawing Patreon. I'll drop a link in the description box below. So there's that one. I'm going to fix a few things. So that's okay. And we're bringing this leg over a little bit more. Her leg is going to be here. There's her Achilles tendon. And if she were in a high heel, that's the back of her foot, and that's where her heel would sit. There's that back H, the hamstring, that guides you into your curves. And there's your ankle bone. And there's the front of your foot, and you see a little bit of the toe, that back 3/4 foot. Honestly, I feel like I really want an arm here, just so it's like balanced. Like you can see the arm a little bit. Like that's what I would do. One of the things about this profile is it's too skinny and like slanted. And I know she's wearing an updo, but it looks smushed. I just did a video on how to do profile view faces for my Patreon, my figure drawing Patreon. And the key thing is, when you draw profile faces, the depth from the tip of the nose to the back of the head. And if you're a beginner, it's better to do this with like people who have shaved heads, pixie cuts, real close to the head hair. From the tip of the nose to the back of the head should be about the same length as the top of the head to the bottom of the chin, provided that their mouth is not open too much, okay? And so you can draw a box around that and fit your whole face in there, including the tip of the nose, and that should give you like a good guesstimate, like a general ratio for how your profile head should look. This is like really squished. I know that there are certain cultures internationally that prize like a flat back of head. And so when they raise their babies, they have done that. I'm not putting down cultures that think that the flat back of head is their culture of beauty. I'm just saying that they exist, but just trying to give some proportions here. Ears tend to be the back half of the head. So, if the nose is here and my box is here and I cut it in half, the ear would be in the back half of the head. Anyway, so she's tipping down, so let's adjust. She's looking down, and so her eye line is more like that. And then her neck and her Roger. And, it's a little stiff because her head is completely profile and her torso is completely frontal. And that's a lot. That's a lot of twist. So I'm going to give it a little bit more of a 3/4 turning into a frontal. So we still have that angle. We still want to position the arms the same, but I'm going to give her more of a 3/4. There's her rib cage. And this is the weight-bearing leg, the weight-bearing ankle, and that's more for balance. Angle of the hips, angle of the knees. Now listen, unless one of your legs is coming forward a lot or pushed back a lot or doing any kind of weird foreshortening, the angle of the hips is going to be the angle of the knees, because vast majority of people, their thighs are about the same length, right? So, these are close together. So the angle of the knees and the angle of the hips Okay. It's a little bit different with the side view because we are not always 100% sure if the hips are cocked this way or that way. But back and front views, 3/4 views, yeah, for sure. Same with the ankles, you know, unless one foot is drastically in front of the other foot, you're going to follow these angles, you know, especially something like this where, you know, there's her foot. They're about to crash into each other, you know. And her arm is tucked back like this. And because I gave her a 3/4 look, you know, we're not going to see this gaping. We're not going to see much of that arm at all because it's pushed closer to her body. But we are going to see this arm and this hand. The head got a little big, but whatever. I mean, I would angle the foot out, but then it's going to crash into each other. I mean, I could kind of do that. She is 3/4 up here, so her bust is going to stay inside the body. And then this bust is coming out because 3/4, again, there's her center front. There are her breasts. We're going to move that clavicle. Clavicles always end over the armpit. And then her arm is here like that. And not so out there. And then her hand is grabbing her elbow. This leg is off because it's down and out, and I just made this come out. So let's bring this back in. So it's coming in more, and I'm not going to move the foot. I'm just angling the leg. And I also like working with tracing paper, even when I'm not tracing, because it's easier to erase color pencil. Honestly, when you look at this, it's like I fixed this so easily because it's still a pose that I would draw now. There's nothing like wrong with the pose. It was just over extenuated over something. You know the word. Just like pulled too hard and too tight, and it didn't look graceful. Whereas these two are just not poses I would do because they're not good poses. They're not natural fashion poses. They look awkward and overwrought. And even in that, I am acknowledging how much I've grown in figure drawing and in illustration because, you know, they just look too posed. These two look too posed. This looks like a natural sort of like dancer's mid-walk. Whereas these just look like, well, okay, push this leg here and push that leg there. You know when you can tell in fashion magazines when a model is too posed and it's not just like a graceful pose? That's what these two poses, just the essence of their poses are. So there's only so much you can do to correct the figures. I think that the vertical proportions are far better than they once were, but the poses are just not good. I could do this and clean it up and turn it into a croquis like later today, this one. Not every redo is gonna be successful. but it's going to teach you a lot about how far you've grown and how you're beyond some of these mistakes that you made before. And that's really the point of this exercise. So I do encourage you to do your own version at home, pull an old illustration and have at it. Like, to redo it and try to make it as better as possible. And you may find yourself thinking, oh, I should never have done that. Like, there's no better version of that. Like, I should have just scrapped that. And that's something you may decide that that's what happens, you know? Like, I would have completely redone, like, reposed these people so that they look like the elegant figures that they were supposed to be for this assignment. And I love New Year, and I think having your own self-assessment of how far you've grown as an artist, illustrator, designer, maker, what have you, is a great way to start off the new year. So pull out some old work, give it a go in trying to fix it, and see how much just your eyes have developed into seeing work in a completely different way. All right? Have fun. Tag me on Instagram with your then and now pics, and I'll see you in the next video.